morning. First of all, I must express my thanks and gratitude to Mr. Darshan Singh and the principal, Ms. Scan, for having invited me to this very important military history seminar. Each time I come over here, this is the second occasion that I've come. It is so interesting to watch the enthusiasm amongst children. First of all, there is a thinning of the auditorium because some of the seats which were up front have got reduced. This is what happens on the second day and the last day of the seminar, because many people who had presented yesterday, they've gone away. But the number of students is still the same, and I hope you understand that there is a reason why the chairman of the school has put 3 people of the same variety with the same headgear, because geography and history can only be taught best by Sardars. Let me therefore talk about maritime geography. As General KJ said that he wanted me to explain what effect does geography have on the situation between India and Pakistan as it prevailed in 71, and particularly during the Kargil War, and how does geography help us, or how does geography become a negative factor in geopolitics and the geostrategic dynamic of our location. You all understand what is this map? You know, a cartographer's delight. What is the most important and most prominent feature in this map? A peninsula, the Indian peninsula. There's hardly any other country which has got such richness in its terrain, in its features, particularly in the sea. And you all understand done? चेक किया था कल भी चेक किया है दोबारा लगाओ
While they are sorting out this technical issue, is sorted out? Yes.
Sorted out? All right. Yeah. Can you see the map now? All right. So this is the Indian Peninsula, which is the most prominent feature in the Indian Ocean. And in fact, many envy the 3 sides which are 5,500 kilometers long that are open to the sea. The only opposing countries, opposing not in a bad and not in a negative sense, opposing in terms of exclusive economic zone properties, are minor, very minute Maldives and Sri Lanka. Otherwise, we are free to claim 200 nautical miles beyond our coastline. Now, many of you may not be aware that we are not just a prominent peninsula in the world, but we are the second largest amongst the Arabian Peninsula, the Alaskan, the Labrador, the Scandinavian, and the Iberian Peninsula. The Arabian Peninsula is 3 million square kilometers large, but it comprises of 10 countries, including landlocked Jordan. What about India? Just 1 country. So you have a great asset of just 1 country having a peninsula which is 2.07 million square kilometers. Can you imagine what a great asset it is? And why is it a great asset? Because you've got the benefit of harboring, creating, and nurturing 205 ports, out of which there are 14 major ports, you can say owned by the government, and the balance are either minor or intermediate ports. The ports that I've shown over here are generally those which are engaged in overseas trade. That means your import-export gets transacted through these ports. Without these, your economy will be in the dumps. If they get disrupted, your economy will be in the dumps. Why? Because critical commodities like oil, gas, ores, certain rare minerals, rare earths, and your exports cannot be sent out or brought in. And therefore, they say that maritime nations in the world are naturally blessed as against landlocked countries. What about Pakistan? You can see from Bombay to Karachi, the distance is about 500 nautical miles. What about Pakistan's ports? The only port worth its name at the moment is Karachi. All the other ports are minor or insignificant ports. Gwadar is, of course, coming up thanks to China, but we don't know whether Gwadar will be really connected well to the hinterland. A proper navigational chart of the Indian Ocean. That is the Makran coast of Pakistan. The blue circle, the blue oval, shows you that portion which is centered around Mumbai. Why am I showing you this? If you see the blue shaded, sky blue shaded area, which is shallow waters, relatively shallow waters, they extend a long distance away from Mumbai, but they are very close to the Makran coast. And what does that mean? That means that there are deep waters very close to the Makran coast of Pakistan, which is not a very good thing. It is good only for marine infrastructure and exploration and exploitation of oil and gas. It is not good for activities of naval warfare insofar as adversaries are concerned. For the adversary, it is a boon. For example, our submarines can go as close as just about 5 or 10 miles from the Makran coast, where Gwadar exists, where Jiwani exists. Next to Jiwani is the Iran border, where Ormara exists, and where Karachi exists. This you need to remember for the next slot that I will be talking about. So you just see of Jiwani, which is the westernmost port of Pakistan, the 40-meter depth contour is just 4.5 nautical miles away, just 4.5 nautical miles. That means that an Indian submarine in event of a crisis or a conflict can go as close as that. Yet submerged, yet hidden, unseen, undetected. From Gwadar it is just 4 nautical miles, 40 meters depth. From Pasni it is 13.5. From Ormara it is 8.5. And from Karachi it is 13.5 miles. That's a great boon to us. What about Mumbai? The 40-meter contour is 25 nautical miles away. That means a submarine cannot comfortably come closer than 25 miles. And so it can't have the blessing of nature by thinking of firing a torpedo at some ships coming out. Yes, they have midget submarines, which can go much closer, but midget submarines cannot have the endurance to come all the way from Karachi. And a 100-meter contour, 100-meter depth is 149 miles away from Mumbai harbor. So what did nature and God do when India and Pakistan were divided in 1947? It gave you the advantage of geography, not the revenge of geography that you people might have heard of by a famous author. And it gave to Pakistan the revenge of geography. As it is, Pakistan today has only one good port, that is Karachi. And Port Qasim is in its armpit. It's as good as Karachi itself. that brings me to the end of part one that you heard General KJ talk about. I'll talk about concept of operations later.
So, Admiral Anup has hit the first sixer of this session. So, I hope you've liked this sixer. I don't get reactions. So, now we will, too much of Navy is bad, so we'll go to land. And we have General Harinder to tell us, see, this operation was called Operation Badr. So he's going to explain to us what were Pak motivations to launch this operation, who were behind the planning and execution. So now look at the Kargil operation that you have been talking, you are seeing on the films from across the Red Cliff line, from Pakistan side. Over to General Harinder, please.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start by saying that military conflicts are rooted in history. And the Kargil conflict is also rooted in history that we must understand. While we can go back decades and possibly a century to explain what fascination people had for Kargil, but let me start from 1947. In 1948, Pakistan raiders went right past Kargil up to late till such time they were driven back. 1948 war. In 1965, there is a hill feature which is right opposite Kargil, which changed hand twice. And after the Tashkent agreement was signed, it fell into the Pakistani hands. In 1971, this feature, which is also referred to as Point 13620, again was captured by India. And therefore, that explains as to what kind of historical fascination that Pakistanis had for Kargil. Now, after 71 war, when the line of control was demarcated, it ended at a point called NJ 9842. Beyond that was the Siachen Glacier and the Saltoro Range, for which the contestation started sometime in the 80s. In 1978, India sent the first expedition to the eastern mountain ranges of the Siachen Glacier. 2 years later, in 1980, India again sent in another expedition to the western ranges of the Saltoro Glacier. Now, around 83-84, in 84 to be very precise, that India preempted Pakistan in occupying the Siachen Heights, which are also called the Saltoro Range. Now, when Siachen got captured by us, or rather got occupied by us, the Pakistan side on several occasions wanted to, get back these heights into their possession. Now, this is where the whole thing starts. 1982-83, General Pervez Musharraf, who was then a brigadier, was commanding the famous Dansam Brigade, which is opposite Siachen. Now, it is around that time, in 85, 86, 87, that when General Ziaul Haq was the president, he was the one who said that there must be a way to get back Siachen. A large number of attacks were launched, but most of them failed. So this is the time when Ziaul Haq ordered that a plan B must be formulated, by which, if we can't take back Siachen, let's do something else to, in a way, dislocate the entire Ladakh region. So, at a later stage, what we now see is that this plan B that General KJ was talking about, it got formulated in several different ways. In 1987, when it was presented to Ziaul Haq, he rejected that plan. Much later, in 1996 or 97, it was again presented to the then Army Chief, General Karamat. That again got rejected. But when Pervez Musharraf took over as a chief in early 1998, he, in a way, in his own mind, revoked that plan. And to put that plan in place, he put this clique in place. So what he did was, he appointed a chief of general staff, who was one General Aziz Khan. Then he also nominated his own person as the Corps Commander of 10 Corps. And there was another gentleman by the name of Javed Hassan, General Javed Hassan, who was appointed as the FCNA commander of the Gilgit-Baltistan region. Now, this is how he put the entire clique in place. Now, these four gentlemen started planning as to how they would invoke this plan in a way to occupy a set of heights opposite Kargil, and thereafter, and thereby interdict the national highway that runs from Zozela to Leh. So as all this was happening, what we also saw was that General Pervez Musharraf purposely kept the rest of the hierarchy out of picture, in a sense that in the months of January to March 1999, I believe that the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was taken to two or three different places, once to Skardu, next time to Kale, and once also at Islamabad they had a briefing. There were 3 or 4 important briefings in which they talked about everything else other than Kargil. Okay, this was also the time when he deliberately kept the military hierarchy, the Air Force and the naval chiefs out of picture. It is only sometime in the month of April, May, when Pakistan has its regular higher commanders meeting, that there were some murmurs heard in that conference when people, kind of questioned as to what was happening there. What are these different kind of movements and logistic preparations that are happening in the background, that the plan got revealed to the military hierarchy. At the same time, it got revealed to the Air Force and the naval chiefs. So what I mean to say is that General Pervez Musharraf, for a good length of time, kept the plan to himself and to this famous clique of 4, that is the other 3 generals. And then it reached a stage sometime in the middle of May 1999, when the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif got a whiff of that, and therefore he then, in a way, summoned a series of meetings in which it was very clear to him that, look, that the Pakistan Army was indulging in a set of actions which would escalate, and it could also possibly bring disrepute to him as the leader of the country. So what I mean to say is that this also reflects on the civil-military relation that we have seen in Pakistan over the years, as to what kind of a relationship has evolved between the civilian leaders and the military leaders in Pakistan over the last 60, 70 years. It's a clear reflection of that the chief of the army staff on his own can plan a very major action, which, as I yesterday described, extending over about 100 kilometers, okay, employing close to about 4,000 to 5,000 troops, making intrusions into another country across a legally demarcated, negotiated line of control to as deep as about 8 to 10 kilometers, and then forcing the other country into a very serious eviction operation. So that is a major lesson for us, if I might say.
Thank you, General Harinder. He's spoken of Pakistani generals. He's named Ziaul Haq. He's named Pervez Musharraf. I would share with you that there is a third general who's called Mirza Aslam Beg. Now, what is common in these 3 people is all 3 are muhajirs. In Pakistan, muhajirs is a preservative. It's a kind of abuse in a way. Tu muhajir hai, tenu Punjabi nahi aandi. That's the narrative. Because people speak Urdu are muhajirs who have gone from Indian side. So, over the years, Ziaul Haq, who went from Jalandhar, had studied in Stephens and trained in IMA, was the first Muhajir general who wanted to prove to Pakistanis that he is more Pakistani than Pakistanis themselves. So he put Pakistan and its army on an irreversible path of Islamization. And today Pakistan army has become what it has become. It is thanks to our man from Jalandhar, Ziaul Haq. Now go to the next person, Mirza Aslam Beg. He came from Azamgarh. He can be very happy. Apni side se gaya. UP ka banda hai. Now what did he do? He started the proxy war in Kashmir. The third guy is Parvez Musharraf from Neherwali Haveli in New Delhi. And he does this to us. So, please don't look for romanticism when dealing with Pakistanis, and especially their generals. Also, one more thing which you have to take note of. Currently, we are faced with a very, very difficult situation. The present Pakistan Army Chief is a Shia. And Shias have the need to prove themselves in Pakistan. He could be a very dangerous commodity to handle. So children, look at these aspects. I have got a chit warning me. Because of that technical glitch, we lost some time. So I'll request my panelists to now shorten their thing. So Admiral Anup sir, in 3-4 minutes, or let's take, you hit a 4 now, sir. And please tell us about the current context, sir, quickly.
So, I will skip a few slides and come straight to the meat of this presentation, part 2. I told you in the first part that Pakistan does not have a good maritime geography. Deep waters are good for maritime nations, but insofar as adversarial contact is concerned, it's not good. Imagine, the lifeline and the lifeblood of Pakistani economy is oil and gas and some other very important minerals. But oil and gas has to come from the Persian Gulf next door, from the Strait of Hormuz, just 600 nautical miles away from Karachi. This is how a tanker moves from the Persian Gulf, going in times of crisis as close to the coast as possible because there is deep water available, so that it does not get harmed by Indian submarines in case of crisis or conflict. But I told you in the first part that this 40 meters is a boon to us because a submarine, a conventional submarine in particular, can go even inside 40 meters. Look at the distance from Karachi. This is the 100 nautical mile arc. In the 71 war and in 1999 Kargil, the only aircraft of the Pakistan Air Force that could venture out to sea, it's not easy to fly over the sea, particularly at low level with bombs or missiles, was 100 nautical miles and no more. No night flying capability. The F-16s came for land fighting, but even they do not have a Harpoon missile which in 1999, which could be fired over the sea. A great boon of geography again to us. This is the 300 nautical mile arc. In peacetime, their aircraft with full payload can go only there. And this is where Mumbai exists. So insofar as India is concerned, it is balle balle. Till now and for the future. These are the 4 ports, including Karachi. What do you see over here? Children, school children, students, can you see anything over here? Speak aloud. The sea. Can you see anything in the sea? Moonlight. Can you see anything else? But there's a submarine underneath. Even I can't see it. Nobody can see it. That is the greatest property of a submarine. Stealth. It hides itself. Daytime. Can you see the submarine? No. It's always hidden. When she comes up with her masts, only on an occasion like shop window, family's day, showing school children what a submarine looks like, she surfaces. In this case, she's going into a harbor. Otherwise, she never surfaces. She is full of stealth. That is the greatest asset. This is a submarine underwater firing a torpedo. It could be a merchant ship, it could be a warship in those waters off the Makaran coast. Nobody can see a submarine the way you're seeing it now. Not even a scuba diver. Because our waters in any case are very dirty. Even in a swimming pool, you face refraction. This is a submarine which has just let go a cruise missile against a ship or a land target. And what do ships do? In 1999, what did, during Kargil War, our ships do? They sailed out of Mumbai and the procedure called a breakout, where they go only through shallow waters so that they are far away from any submarine lurking in 40 plus meters of water. And then from this task force, small task groups are formed, single ships are formed. They lurk outside the citadel arc that I showed you, 100 nautical miles. And the Pakistanis dare not come anywhere near. They do not come into harm's way. They remain in harbor to fight another day, which hopefully for them will come. For us, it will never come. That's the end of the theorem.
Thank you, sir. We'll save some time. So I'll quickly go to General Harinder. General Harinder, there have been a large number of narratives starting from denial to various kind of nuances Pakistan has tried to put onto it. So can you please educate us in about 4 to 5 minutes, please?
So the Pak narratives have evolved over time. On Kargil conflict, we can clearly see that during the initial stages of the conflict, carrying on to almost the middle of July 1999, Pakistan remained in absolute denial of all that what they had done, of all the intrusions that they had undertaken. But much later, I would say that from late July 1999 till now, as late as September 24, they have been reluctantly accepting that they did undertake intrusions into Kargil. On September 24th of this year, the current Pak Army Chief, he made a statement on the Pak Martyrs' Day, if I'm not wrong, to say that we commemorate the contribution of those NLI troops who had, participated in this war. So what I'm trying to say is that this is how the whole story or whole narratives have traveled. Now, when you look at the Pakistani literature, well, there are a lot of books that have been written on this, but I would just like to flag about 2-3 of them. The first one is by General Pervez Musharraf, the book titled In the Line of Fire. That particular book, he completely denies that, Pakistan was involved in those intrusions. He says in the end that, look, India was trying to provocate Pakistan, and therefore to defend ourselves, it was necessary for us to occupy those gaps, those 100-kilometer stretch that we are talking about. And that book has got several other anecdotes. There's just one chapter on that, and these young boys and girls can possibly look at that. The second book that is extremely important was written by the then DG ISI, who had objected to General Musharraf's plan. He was Safdar Aziz. He wrote a book, Ye Khamoshi Kahan Tak, something like that. Ye Khamoshi Kahan Tak Chalegi, something like that. This book was written in Urdu. Now that book very clearly gives out, the translations are available, it clearly gives out as to how the hierarchy, other than this clique of 4, were kept out of picture, and how over a period of time they learned about things here and there. The third important book is one which General Ahluwalia had indicated yesterday, was written by Naseem Zehra. She is a scholar. She's a Pakistani scholar who also teaches abroad. She wrote that book starting from 2002 to 2016 or so. She took about 12 to 14 years to write that book. The interesting part about that book is that of all the accounts that you see on the Indian side and on the Pakistani side, for the reason that this book was written over 12 to 14 years, and she undertook close to about 100 or 120 interviews. That is possibly one of the most truthful books that you can ever come across on the Pak narratives, and also I would say to a certain extent on the Indian narratives. The Indian narratives are largely oral histories. That if I was a commander, this is what I did. Or if he was a commander, this is what he did. These are oral histories. But here is a record of events, which is basically a third-party narrative. And I would say that it was very brave of her to write that kind of a book. And I would urge that, of course, that's a very thick book. But if you get to read that, it'll be extremely good. So in a sense, from an absolute denial to a reluctant acceptance, except one exception, that is of Naseem Zehra, who clearly says that we provocated the war. Okay, other accounts, other Pakistani accounts have been one-sided.
Thank you, General Harinder. Wonderful way, and children, please try and lay your hands on that book. There are YouTube commentaries on that. Try and go through it. Naseem Zehra, it's a very nice scholastic kind of work. Please try and look into it. Now it's time for question answer. I'll yield to organizers who have told me time is up. So I'll yield my 6 minutes. So let's take some questions. And the format we'll follow is raise your hands. We'll go alternate like one boy, one girl, that kind of thing, so that everybody gets represented. And ask a question, just a question. Give your name, short question, and sit down. And then second question and third question. And we'll try and answer them together. So, okay, go ahead, please.
Hello. Jai Hind, everyone. I am Hiya Jalwal from Olympus High School. Sir, I would like to ask that how does the military engage in cross-border cooperation with neighboring countries during peacetime or in disaster relief operations?
Thank you. We got your question. Wonderful question. Thank you. Second question, please.
Good morning, sir. I am Cadet Parth Tiwari from Rashtriya Indian Military College, Dehradun, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
please go ahead.
Sir, looking over issues like Galwan and Doklam, do we have the equal or similar kind of advantages in maritime geography with our other neighbor, that is China, sir?
Okay, that's second question. Let's have the third question. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. My name is Arun and I am from Nirmal Ashram Gyandan Academy, Rishikesh. So my question is that, how did the experience of the war change you personally or professionally? Thank you.
Okay, so we will take these questions. We'll start with a comparison with China. How do we rate with China in maritime leverages? So I'll request Admiral Anup Singh to please answer this question.
Okay, that's a very good question. How do we compare with China insofar as maritime geography is concerned? Let me first put one fact straight. It is almost similar to the maritime geography disadvantage that Pakistan faces. China is in Western Pacific. The closest naval base that China has is in Hainan Island. From there to the west coast of India, particularly Mumbai and beyond, is almost 4,000 nautical miles. That will completely exhaust the endurance of crew and also some machinery of a conventional submarine. A nuclear-powered submarine also will not have too much time on task if it sails all the way from there. The greatest advantage that India has is logistics. The Army calls it the logistic train. The Navy says operational logistics in your own waters. Despite having only 140 odd ships, whereas China boasts of 300 plus platforms today as the largest navy in numbers, not in technology. These are our waters, and therefore beyond the Malacca Strait close to the Andaman Nicobar Islands all the way to the west coast of India, our naval harbors and merchant harbors are our greatest support. So we have the advantage of logistics and our eyes in the sky and on the sea. So at the moment, they only have one overseas base in Djibouti. We know that one more will come up in Gwadar. one perhaps close to Hambantota. At the moment the agreement says no, but that will not ease too much of logistics facilitation for China. As time passes, we need to go up in numbers of our Navy and technology.
I'll take on this another question which is related to the cooperation or during peacetime that we do. Now this cooperation that India does is always under the UN Charter. We keep the UN Charter as the guiding template, and we do these exercises. We do with large number of countries. The number of countries is only increasing. The basic aim is to gain certain kind of interoperability, understanding of other countries' capabilities, also demonstrate our professionalism and our capabilities, because that does act as some kind of a deterrence. And let me tell you one thing, this narrative about Vishwa Guru, while it is not entirely possible to get it in all domains, but one domain where certainly we are taken as some kind of a Vishwa Guru is in the realm of military training and professionalism. We are known to be the past masters in this, be it Army, be it Air Force, or be it Navy, all three. And we take part in international competitions, like the Red Flag for Air Force, like Army goes and take parts in the commando competitions in UK, and we frequently win it also. Navy does this wonderful exercise called as Malabar. So all this is a way to communicate to other party, jara sambhal ke. So, and gain some interoperability. So the third question we have is with General Harinder, who's a veteran of many battles of counterinsurgency operations. So he will tell us how does a conflict change a person, what effect it has on him.
Okay, I think bringing out personal experiences may not be relevant here, but I would just like to make a point here that in Army you get trained. You are militarily trained to work or act. At the younger levels, you are trained. As you grow up in service, you need to educate yourselves. So that's one reason that we say that there is, on one hand, we have military training, on the other side, hand, we have military education. That education helps you get into leadership positions. As you are getting up into leadership positions, your experience, your gained experience helps you bridge all this together. Your training, your education and experience, and that brings in the change. But for this younger lot sitting here, I would just have a piece of advice that you would grow as, you need to grow as leaders. And to be leaders, what is important is, I think 3 or 4 things. That you need to read. Only if you read that you are able to write. And only if you are able to read and write well, that you are able to think. And if you are able to read, write and think, that you are able to communicate by the power of your ideas rather than the power of your language. I think that's the point that I would like to make. And this is how change comes into people as you grow up. Thank you.
So I think we'll finish here, because after Dhoni kind of sixer has been hit, there is no point in trying to diffuse the issue. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, Darshan Singh sir and the faculty for giving us this chance. We are sorry because of technical glitch. We did exceed the time by about 10 minutes. But wonderful questions and wonderful participation. Above all, my gratitude to Admiral Anup Singh and General Harinder for being most wonderful resource people. Thank you.